Hi, this is Tom from the Nerdstravaganza podcast. This is part 3 of my series on how to make a simple robot, or Tom's Simple Robot. As you can see below you, I've got not one, not two, but 3 servos spinning in unison. These are all driven off of pin 9 from our previous example, and in this video I want to show you how we can extend pins through use of a Proto Shield and a breadboard. As I mentioned last time, we had something we needed to consider, which was that we had a limited number of pins at our disposal on the plain vanilla Arduino. We had, if I could just use an improvised pointer here, we had our one 5-volt power and our ground available to us. There are actually 2 grounds, but the point remains that we had the 1 power and the 1 ground, and then over on the I/O side we were using pin 9. As you can see, that was a single pin, so connecting 3 servos to this doesn't seem like it would be very possible. Well, enter the Proto Shield and the accompanying breadboard. So first I'll go over the breadboard again. This is a mini breadboard. Basically, if you've ever worked with a more conventional breadboard, they have sort of like power buses on the side and they're really big. This doesn't have that, and I guess basically the pin outs coming from the board sort of serve that purpose of delivering power and I/O and stuff like that. So this is just a mini breadboard, and basically if you jump something into, say, this input, it extends it along all of these. And then if you wanted to go further, you could jump over this chasm, this cooling chasm or whatever it is, and then continue on the other side. So you could extend a single pin out pretty far. So very useful for prototyping, obviously, which is what we're doing here. Now when you marry a breadboard with this Proto Shield, the breadboard just has an adhesive bottom, I should mention. And you can just peel the sticker off and plunk it right down on there. Once you do that, you've got a very handy prototyping surface where all of your pins are extended. This attaches to the Arduino, so all the pins basically are extended up into these convenient posts that you can then plug into, and you've got basically everything extended. There's your ground. Well, there's your that little 5 right there is your 5-volt power, and then there's your ground. And then over here on the I/O side, we've got our D9 or digital 9 I/O. So from there, I could jump that over and then extend that to have multiple places to plug into that input-output. And as well, you can share the power and the ground. And that's exactly what I did when I basically hooked up 3 servos, as you see here. I have a bird's eye view of this, but I'll try to get in as close as I can by lifting up some components and showing you. The first thing I should note, I mentioned last time that you can use an external power supply with the Arduino. You don't need to have it plugged in through USB. And in fact, that's what I'm doing here. I've got my little Radio Shack plug that I bought, I guess an AC adapter. That's very handy. You can pick those up fairly affordably, and they're nice for when you don't want to hook up to the computer. The Arduino's default behavior when it's got power is to execute whatever sketch it has in memory, and in our case, that is the sweep sketch from last time. So as you can see, it's just moving all servos on pin 9 through 180-degree sweeps. And basically, to show you what I've got going here, a little bit of a bird's nest. That's the disadvantage of using these jump wires. They're very convenient for plugging in, but they tend to be big and loopy as opposed to a very precisely cut wire. So you can get a little bit of a bird's nest effect, but hopefully I can decipher it for you. So these wires should look familiar. This is my servo from last time. Red is going into power. Let me see if I can't lift some things up to show you. Red is going into power, black to ground, and yellow into the now extended pin 9. Let me see if I can zoom in to show you. It's upside down, I apologize, but as you can see on the left here, that is the pin 9 coming up from the Arduino, and then I've got it jumped and then over here into the breadboard. And then this yellow, this blue, and this other green wire are the I/O cables coming from each of my servos. And then if we jump over to the other side where the 5-volt power is, again, I've got the power coming up the post from the Arduino on the bottom, jumping over on this wire, looping over, going into the board, and then these 3 red wires each go to the power coming out of my individual servos. And then if I flip things around, you can see that I've got right next to that the ground coming up, jumping over, and then 3 black wires next to that, each of which goes to a ground on a particular servo. So what I've basically got is the servo duplicated. So I've got 3 clone servos running. Now, if all I wanted was 3, the head and the 2 arms to move in unison, then we would be in good shape. But obviously we want something a little more elegant, a little more sophisticated than that. We want to have the servos able to act independently. And that's going to involve a little more sophistication in our sketch as well as our wiring. The ground and the power are going to remain the same, but we're going to need to assign each of the servos and plug each of the servos into different pins. And I'm going to demonstrate that in the next segment I cover. But for now, I just wanted to show how easy it is to take the basic Arduino and extend it using a Proto Shield and breadboard. Of course, you could just wire directly into a breadboard. I like the Proto Shield because it stacks very nicely and can give you a really small profile, prototype to, I don't know, say put a robot body over, for example, which is my intention. I should note one thing. If you're allergic to soldering, you're going to have to get unallergic to it if you do want to pick up a Proto Shield. I bought 2 of these, and they both came unassembled, so I had to go in. They came with all the posts and everything like that, and they came with a little mini breadboard. The mini breadboard was the easiest thing to attach. You just use the adhesive sticker, and that was no problem. But all these other little components on the board did require some soldering, and this soldering looks a little too clean to be mine. A friend of mine did one for me to show me, and I think that was this one, and then I did the other. Mine is decidedly more blobby. Blobby is a word, but I did get the job done. Basically, you've just got to solder all the necessary components in place. It doesn't take that long once you get on a roll soldering. It turns out to be a lot easier, and this isn't the most difficult thing to solder. So there is a little assembly required for the Proto Shield, but I highly recommend it. If you want to just go with a standard breadboard, that's another route you can go to, but I'm going to be using the Proto Shield in conjunction with the Arduino Uno for the remainder of this video series. I think this one's going to be short and sweet. I just wanted to get this concept across to you, and with that, I am going to bid you adieu.